Hi, I'm Toni Quest. I'm here with a wonderful book author and artist. And I don't really know which comes first with her, but she really writes things that are a little on the dark side, but at the same time, there's something strangely, oddly fun about it in a kind of twisted way. Her name is Susan Zoon, and she writes books about vampires, and she does it very well. It's not your average vampire book. So I'll welcome you to the show, Susan.
Thanks, Toni. Thanks for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. Now I have to ask you first, and I might have asked you this question in the past. Why vampires?
It just sort of happened. Although when I was a kid growing up, I loved vampire movies. I was the kid that sat around on Saturday afternoon and watched Creature Double Feature, and
Yeah.
all of the Hammer horror movies and all of that stuff. So I always really enjoyed it. But it just sort of happened. The idea just sort of came to me one day. I never planned to write. I was at the beach, and an idea just sort of gelled. All of a sudden, it was like bang. And then I just started writing it. It was strange. But
Yeah, how old were you?
well, too old.
Too old?
I'm not going to tell you. No, in my late 30s.
Okay, when you started writing.
When I started writing, yeah.
Okay, but as a child, you were into vampires and Tales from the Crypt and what was it, the Outer Limits, those
Yeah, all
shows?
of that stuff. Outer Limits,
Yeah.
Tales from the Crypt.
No Captain Kangaroo for you.
No Captain.
No romper room.
No
romper
romper
room.
No.
Wow.
No,
So
I was always, I guess, attracted to the dark side,
So
and the dark stuff. I guess even as a kid, I enjoyed the psychology of it.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed, I think I discovered as a kid the catharsis of it.
Okay.
If it was a weirdo movie on television, you knew it was fiction, so you didn't have to be afraid of it. That's how I felt about it.
Okay, so
anyway.
you understood it wasn't real. You weren't
Oh,
frightened?
Yeah. No.
Wow, so you were a different kind of a child.
I guess, yeah, to say the least.
Yes, what did your parents think of that?
Well, they just sort of let it happen. You know, they weren't restrictive in that way, you know, toward me.
That's good.
And my dad was always a real film buff. So he sort of enjoyed those movies too.
Yeah.
He liked every kind of movie, but he enjoyed that too. So that's something we always had in common.
So your fascination with the whole idea of vampires started with TV and movies. Did you watch shows like Dark Shadows?
I did. I watched Dark Shadows was a hoot. It was really funny.
Yeah, Barnabas Collins.
Yes, yeah. I don't think they meant it to be funny, but it was, you know, camptacular.
Yeah.
So
that's a good word.
I had to watch it.
Yeah, yeah. And people, I think, have found vampires at this stage in our history. The vampire has become sort of like a sex symbol.
Yeah.
And you've taken it to the nth degree.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess vampires are sexy, but in my book, I think the sexual angle is not really about the vampires. It's really just about humanity. But the vampires, I think, you don't agree with that?
No, I'm hearing it. I'm
Oh,
listening.
okay.
Only because I've read this book.
Yeah.
In total, and
Yeah.
I'm like, humanity. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think humans want to be immortal. I think that's the baseline.
Oh, it's immortality.
It's all about immortality. It's not about the sex, it's about the immortality.
Okay.
The sex is a nice thing that happens along the way, but
Yeah.
it's about the immortality.
Okay.
People, you know, humans want to be immortal, and, you know, the older we get, the more we want that immortality. And now I find that young people really have a craving for immortality that seems kind of unseemly to me at such a young age,
Yeah.
that they latch on to that.
Right.
But I think it's because we live in such a fear-based culture now,
Yeah.
that the way out seems to be, you know, being a vampire. You're immortal, you're untouchable, no one can hurt you.
Yeah.
And I think that plays very big with teenagers right now.
Perhaps. Although there are adult people that are into a lot of this. I know
yeah.
people that are in their 50s that are very much into vampires. It's their pastime. Read vampire books and watch vampire movies. That's their pastime. Now, it seems that you're an adult and you decided to write. What made you decide to write about it in your 30s? Was there something that happened that, like a light bulb went off and said, I'm going to write a book about vampires. I need to get this, I need to do this to actualize myself?
No. not at all. It just seemed like a great idea. And so I went for it. That's all. It just happened to be at the Jersey Shore. I go in the off season to paint generally, like in October or whatever. And when I went into the beach house, the guy who was renting it to me, I asked him, why do all of the window screens look like they've been messed with, jimmied or whatever? And he said, because in the off season, what happens is a lot of people, they get a lot of transients on the island in the off season, and they break into the houses and they squat in them.
Whoa.
And what they do is they jimmy the screens off, and they actually break in and they live in the houses.
Right.
And the people that live around them, that are the year-rounders, they don't notice it because they think, well, the place is just being rented.
Oh.
So I started thinking about this. I started thinking, so what if let's say there's a vampire on the island. It's easy pickings for him in the off season. He can pick off the squatters and feel like actually like he's doing a service, you know, like all of a sudden now he's not a bad guy, now he's Batman.
Okay.
You know?
And as I remember in this book, there was a lot of that sort of like this somebody's beach house and someone's living in this beach house, a vampire. I shouldn't give it away. And the things that happen, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to me how those things pop into your mind, that you can think of things like that. But I think that's part of being a writer. Now, you actually are an artist as well.
Yeah.
And you've done the book cover on this one, which talks about two characters. It depicts two of the characters in the book.
Right.
And I have to say, this is a pretty good depiction of it. And it's a little scary. I'll say I didn't read your book at night because I was frightened.
Okay, well, I'm glad.
Yeah,
I'm glad
I was afraid. I'm like, I'm not, once the sun goes down, I'm not reading this. Because during the day, I know vampires don't come out. They're afraid of the sun. What happens? They burn, right?
They burn.
They burn up. Yes, they do. So the characters, I just had this feeling when I was reading this book, Vampire Lover, okay, that it was based on someone you actually knew. Because it just seemed so crazy, you know?
In a certain way, there's a little bit of somebody, there's a little bit of all kinds of people I know in every one of these characters.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of me. I am every one of the characters.
Okay.
Pretty much in turn. My voice is in them somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know how that could not be. When you're writing something, your voice has to be in the character somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think the characters in this book, what I really wanted to do was something different. I wanted the characters to not be glamorous. I wanted them to be sort of the invisible people. I wanted them to be people that are easily victimized.
Yeah.
The older woman, the scarred Vietnam vet.
Yeah.
The, you know, people that, you know, the transgendered guy, you know, sexually confused. People that are generally victims.
Yeah.
I wanted them to be the heroes and the heroines of the book and have their decisions be based on their life experiences.
Yeah.
Where a lot of the vampire novels that you read or a lot of the movies that you see, the victims are sort of random. The characters are sometimes random. Here I think they all have purpose and they all have like a real center.
Yeah, yeah. But there are some killings in here that I wonder why you killed the particular characters off. I shouldn't give it away because it's like, I mean, I shouldn't give away the plot, but I know for a fact that I had a copy of the book that I gave to a friend of mine, my best friend, who's really very much into this kind of a thing, and she hasn't given it back to me. It's like, I'm not getting it back. She loves this book.
Great.
Yeah,
I'm glad she does.
I have to tell her about your next book, which is Post Crypt. Now, are they the same characters?
Oh, no, no.
Oh, okay.
Post Crypt is, they're all short stories and one novella. And so it's all over the place.
Okay.
There's only actually one story in Post Crypt that involves a vampire.
Okay. Oh, so it's other kinds of, you know, dark stories.
Yeah, they're sort of along the line of the old Tales from the Crypt sort of stories, where there's a lot of irony, you know, and they're scary, but they're also funny and they're ironic.
Yeah, there's some humor in Vampire Lover, as a matter of fact, I have to say. You know, I'm not going to give it away because I really do think people should buy this book because I'm not selling books on this cable show. I know the rules. I know the rules. But I'll have to say that it's a really good read. You know, where are you going with this one?
Where am I going with it?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going anywhere with it. The reason I wrote Postscript over about 10 years. After I finished Vampire Lover,
Okay.
I was working for an online e-zine that was called The Writer's Hood. They're not around anymore.
Yeah.
But I was their horror editor for 10 years.
Oh, nice.
And what I did was I edited and read a lot of submissions that were all short stories. And I got interested in the form.
Yeah.
And so I just started playing around with it.
Yeah.
And what came out of it was Postscript.
Okay, so this is, I'm looking forward to reading this particular book.
Yeah.
You know, in the day, light. You know, I'm just, you know, a lot, I think I don't think that, I'm not talking about myself, but I imagine that people like me are not unique. You know, I'll read things like this, but I find that at night it becomes too real. I don't know what that is, probably the vivid imagination of an artist or whatever.
That's what it is, definitely.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I've been to your home and you have a tremendous amount of beautiful art that you've actually created. Thanks. You know, sculptures, I mean, all kinds of things in your particular space, even in your home and in your studio. Now, how did you, tell me about your art.
I've been painting since I was like 3 years old, literally.
Okay.
I think I scrawled a mural on my parents' dining room wall, and that was
that was the beginning.
That was the beginning.
Yeah, and the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
And I went to art school in Mexico, in San Miguel de Allende, and that's where I got interested in the Mexican Day of the Dead, and that's where I got interested in skeletons, and so they're a leitmotif in my paintings, but I've been painting ever since.
Yeah, that's great. And what I like about your work is that you'll take a person in the flesh, okay? And when you actually do your depiction of them, they're a skeleton. But it's not in any kind of a flippant or disrespectful way. You know, one of my favorites is Barack Obama, you know, which I know that you like him. And I know that you've also done Marilyn Monroe.
Yes.
Which is crazy. That's a crazy thing what you did with Marilyn.
Well, I didn't paint Barack as a skeleton.
You didn't. You did not paint him as a skeleton.
No, that's a straight up portrait.
Yes, it is.
And I do a lot of political paintings, and I do a lot of political portraits. And as a matter of fact, my painting of Bill Clinton is in his personal collection.
Yes.
But the painting of Marilyn, I painted Marilyn as a skeleton because I believe that she's a personality that I think was just totally consumed by celebrity.
Yeah.
Celebrity just killed her, just
stripped
her bare in every sense of the word.
Right.
Right to the bone.
Right.
And so that's why I thought it was interesting to paint her. I chose that iconic pose of her in the big ballet skirt.
Yeah.
And
but she's a skeleton.
She's a skeleton.
Yeah.
I painted Michael too. You saw the one I painted of Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Another celebrity who was, I think, consumed by
the Michael Jackson portrait is something that it's so striking that you don't know how to feel when you look at that. You know, you feel like, wow, you know, and you captured it. Especially you captured the motion and the movement in him. Yeah. But you captured something that is deeper in that particular.
Oh, well, that's great. I've done my job then.
You have done your job. I saw it, and I have to say, when I saw it, I felt like I was like amazed, and I felt bad. I did. I felt bad.
Well, it's sad
about what happened.
It's sad because he had so much power. You know, he was. I don't think anybody that ever saw him perform could deny that he had just an extraordinary genius.
Yeah, regardless of what your taste in music.
Yeah, regardless of what your taste in music.
Yeah. So what paintings are you working on now? I've been to your studio. You do other things. You do sculptures. There's one I saw on your dining room table that was a something hatching. What was that?
No, she wasn't hatching. She cracked me up.
She looked like she was hatching out of a. She looks like she was hatching out of a shell.
Yes, she's like a mermaid baby, like a mermaid skeleton baby inside of a huge clamshell.
Yes.
And I call it La Sirena because it's based on a Mexican legend about,
yeah.
like a skeleton mermaid.
Yeah.
And really, for me, it's just a statement about the death of the oceans.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Oh, okay. And you know something? It's beautiful.
Thank you.
It is, but I'm wondering, what it is that keeps you from not feeling like you always have the creeps, because of the kind of images that come out of your mind, and then you actually put like that skeleton baby. I was fascinated by it, but I mean, I had the creeps with that. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece.
I guess to me, I don't find it creepy. I find it sort of celebratory. I feel like, our skeletons are our purest essence. We're all that. If you take everything else away, you take away the politics, you take away the gender, the color, the nationality, no matter what it is.
You take away the flesh.
That's what we are. That's
we have
what
in
we
common.
all are in common. And so, in that, if you think of it in that way, it's not creepy.
What's up? What's up? She's creeped out too. No, she's not. So yeah, but I find them beautiful though. They're beautiful, beautiful pieces. Now you also have a series of masks.
Yes.
Tell me how you ended up doing that, because there are a lot of people that do masks, and it usually has to do with a certain culture.
Well, again, it's the Mexican culture, and it's the
Lillian, lay down.
The celebration of the Day of the Dead.
Lay down.
And so during the festival, a lot of times you'll see in Mexico that they wear a lot of skeleton masks.
Yeah.
And so I decided to make these masks and again, make them beautiful.
Yeah.
And give them all different themes.
Okay.
And so I just thought it felt
They are
right.
beautiful.
It felt right with the work.
Yeah.
And in the past, I've worked as a costume designer.
Oh, okay.
So I think I just let that part of me come out a little bit to play with the masks.
Yes, the masks are beautiful. Tell me about the costume designing gigs that you've done.
Oh, wow. I haven't done costume design since the 70s. I know that really dates me.
No, that's okay.
But I worked with an opera company in New Jersey, and I was the principal costume designer for the Philadelphia Civic Ballet for several years. And so I had to sort of make a choice about whether I was going to continue down that path, which is really designed by committee.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just decided to let that go and just paint, full time.
So you're doing your own thing.
So I'm doing my own thing. But I found that when I started getting involved with the masks, all of that submerged costume designer in me came out again.
Yeah. So everything contributes. Everything from your past is contributing to your art now.
Yeah.
That's a really nice thing.
Don't you find that in your art too, though? Everything contributes?
It does, absolutely. Even on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
You can just meet somebody, have a conversation, and it's going to end up somehow filtered into your work.
And you use it. I know.
Yeah.
I tell people that all the time.
Yeah.
You're going to be